Now let's look at it, from the other side. Now I'm a buyer. I'm thinking about buying a rental property. Is it better for the property to be vacant or to have tenants there in place? So let's take a look at the pros and cons for that one. And again, it's wait one oh, let's look at just like the selling there, it is better when you're buying a rental property to have it be vacant. There's a lot of issues for the rental property itself that make it better when you're going to go look at the properties as a buyer for them to be vacant. So let's take a look at some of the issues that can arise if the rental property is occupied. And we talked about this last week when we're selling there, is that some landlords don't allow showings until the offer is made. Because, if you have multifamily properties, maybe the seller landlord is not going to let you see every single one of the units. They're only going to have a vacant one available, or maybe one or two of them available for you to go take a look at as a buyer. Why? Because just like we were talking about when selling, we don't want to bother the tenants. It's a big hassle, a big imposition, or maybe some of the tenants are uncooperative. So we don't want the potential buyers to go in there and have to look at, every single one of the units there. We only let them see a specific number of them. Well, as a buyer, that makes it difficult then for me to go in there and see the whole state of the property, what's going on. If the rental property is vacant, as a buyer, uh, again, it's so much easier because, like we just said, I can now see all of the units. I don't have to worry about scheduling, maybe not me, maybe it's my agent, but now the agents don't have to coordinate with the tenants to, go in there and set up all of the appointments. I don't need to deal with these tenants who maybe are going to be following me around, giving me information, asking me questions, being negative about the entire thing. You can just skip the entire interaction or problems there with the tenants. Of course, if the rental properties are vacant, me as a buyer, I want to see every inch of that rental property there. And with tenants in there, you just can't do it because they've got furniture, they've got personal belongings, they've got crap everywhere. So it's really hard sometimes to see what these properties look like with the tenants there and their belongings there in place. So I can't see every little space of that property. Some of it is going to be hidden from me. Not only do I have to deal with property related issues there, now I'm going to have to deal with the tenants. And this is just to reiterate what we talked about when we talked about the selling of the occupied versus rental, occupied properties there, is that a lot of investors and landlords will just not buy the rentals with the tenants in place. So I mentioned we're going to expand upon this here and take a deeper dive and take a look at why. Why do a lot of investors and landlords, they just have a hard and fast rule. They will not buy the rentals if there are tenants in there. And it all boils down to that it's just a much higher risk for them. And I put very important because this is a really important reason for you to think about when you list your property to sell there. My do I want tenants there or no? Just be very, very aware that a big pool of landlords, investors will not buy those properties with the tenants there in place. So let's take a look at why that is. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and now we're looking at it from a buyer's perspective. Remember, you're the landlord, you're a buyer, you're going to take a look at these rental properties. What are some of the bad stuff that can happen to you if you buy these rental properties with the tenants there in place? So I don't know about you guys, but me, I want to select my own tenants. You know, it's hard to believe that in today's day and age, landlords wouldn't screen the applicants or their tenants, but a lot of them still don't. So you want to make sure, first of all, that the tenants there are absolutely were screened, and then a lot of landlords want to screen them according to their own criteria. Maybe your cutoff for credit score is 700. Well, the current landlord's cutoff was 500. As we all know, credit scores, are a good indicator of payment history. And somebody with a payment history, a credit score of 500, might be less reliable than a tenant who has a credit score of 700. Whatever those criteria are, it's better to be able to select your own tenants to make sure they're screened and according to your criteria. Another reason is that landlords want to use their leases. They don't want to use somebody else's leases because they want to set their own lease terms. Maybe the current landlord allows pets. Well, I don't allow pets. I don't want pets to be in my properties, but it's too bad. You have to continue to allow those pets in the rentals until the lease expires or whatever. Some people, landlords have a little bit more strict criteria. Some of them are a little bit more, flexible there. But whatever they are, they're your criteria. You're created them. You're comfortable with them, and you don't want to deal with other people's criteria. But just kind of be aware that a lot of landlords feel very strongly about these. They want to select their own tenants. They want to use their own leases. And another reason is basically you really just get to know the tenants. You know what their rental history is. Have this tenant, been paying me on time? Have it been chronically late? Are they behind on their rental payments? Not just that, I know the tenants. I know the good tenants, the bad tenants, the difficult tenants, the easy tenants. I'm just comfortable with them because I know, who these tenants are and how they have paid. Another reason why landlords don't want to inherit, existing tenants is I don't, this is not the right word because they're not puppies that we've trained them, but they kind of know us and we know them. We have instilled in them about this is the way we operate. This is who we are as landlords, and they know who we are and they respond to us. They know what we like, what we don't like. And this is not going to be the case if you're inheriting somebody else's tenants. The tenants are trained to the previous landlords, not to your landlord, not to you as your standards. This is probably one of the biggest reasons is I don't want to inherit these problematic tenants. Not just because maybe they don't pay or they pay late. It's just they have bad behavior. And since I don't know them, I'm just inheriting them. And I have no idea if they're going to be, if they are bad tenants there. Another reason is I don't want to inherit somebody else's existing problems. Maybe the current landlord is going through some evictions right now. Yes, you'll find out about it, but if I'm taking over a new property, I just don't want to be dealing with evictions, right off the bat. Maybe somebody is really behind on rent and I'm going to have to evict them as soon as I take over that rental property. Well, I don't want to have to deal with that. Or maybe some of your tenants have some lease violations and you may not even be aware of some of them when you buy the rental property. So you're going to have to be dealing with these headaches as soon as you buy the rental property. Another really big reason why landlords don't want to buy, rental properties with the tenants in place is because they can't raise the rents. Remember, we're landlords to make money, and a lot of landlords, what they like to do is just not constantly, but they of course do raise the rents. If you have a vacant rental property, you can set the rent to whatever you want. If you inherit the tenants, they've got existing leases and you're not going to be able to immediately raise the rent. So that's a big consideration for people. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the other side of why maybe some landlords don't want to buy the vacant rentals. And this ties into a lot of the chat questions or, comments that everybody was making where, hey, I'm selling my rental property with tenants, or these are the reasons why. And there are some very compelling reasons why you may want to, buy some of the rental properties there with the tenants. Let's say you buy the rental property and there are no existing tenants. Well, of course, you're not going to be making any money. There's no tenants. You're not going to be collecting rent. Therefore, you're not making any money. That's a big reason why some buyers don't want to have, no tenants when they buy the properties. A lot of landlords just hate or need to spend a lot of time finding the current tenants. I mean, you guys know there's just many steps and so much time that's involved in marketing the properties, leasing the properties there. Some landlords would just rather inherit or buy the rental properties with the tenants in place. That way they can skip all of these steps. I forgot who it was. I'll get back to him, but this is a really important reason. Somebody in the chat mentioned this is a lot of us are fortunate, or maybe it's not fortunate, it's just we do a really good job of screening our tenants and training our tenants so they get to be really good long-term tenants who have been there for many, many years. It would be amazing if I would want to inherit some of those really, really good long-term tenants, but because of some of the reasons why it's better to sell the vacant properties, we kick out some of these good tenants. I shouldn't say kick out. We just, say, okay, that's it. Your lease is ending. I'm going to list the property for sale. And the buyer landlord is losing out on these really good long-term tenants. Another reason why landlord, when they go to buy the rental property, is they have to then turn around and make these repairs and improvements, especially if the property has been vacant for a long period of time or hasn't been in good condition. Think about those pictures that Hadi was showing for some of his landlords who bought the rental properties. It's not that they looked terrible; they were just plain. They were out of date, and then he showed us the pictures when they listed the properties for sale. Gorgeous, beautiful. They were really updated. But what does that mean? You got to invest a lot of time and money in preparing these rental properties where, well, as you as a buyer, you don't want to have to then invest this time and money in making these repairs, making these improvements. It's sitting there empty. I'm not collecting any rent. I would rather just buy what are called turnkey properties, which means that's it. The rental properties are ready. I've got the tenants ready to go. I'm immediately making a lot of money.